Paranormal in Pennsylvania may discuss topics such as suicide, murder, and other potentially upsetting things. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, and welcome to Paranormal in Pennsylvania,
where we discuss history and hauntings.
Today's story takes us to our first cave of the podcast. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Erica.
Let's get into it. So today we're talking about Penn's Cave, and this is located in Center Hall, Pennsylvania, which is near the middle of the state, like by Penn State.
I was going to say, if it's called Center Hall and you said it was like all the way to the east or west, it would have been weird.
That's a good point. That's a good point. The name explains itself.
Yes.
So the Seneca tribe originally discovered this cave, and historically it's been used by explorers and natives alike for things like even living in the dry portions of the cave. And the history of it being an attraction, which is what it is today, is actually really interesting because it dates back to 1885 when the cave first opened as a show cavern.
A show cavern?
Yeah.
So like they put on shows in the cavern?
No, like a cavern that you show off. Like people pay to come see the inside of the cavern.
That was always interesting to me. When I was a kid, we went to Crystal Cave. Like it's like way east of the state, I think. I think it's in Pennsylvania. Could be New Jersey. Pretty sure it's still in PA. But it was, you know, they used it for like weddings, and like people would like pay to go spelunking or whatever back in the, I think, 1800s. And that always interests me because I was like, that's such a dangerous thing to do.
Well, splunking, I think, is one thing. Weddings, I would not have expected you to say that. My dad actually used to go splunking. Fun fact.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Him and his friends from college, which is like crazy. They would go for days, apparently.
Yeah. It's
Sounds
scary.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Penn's Cave, it was this commercial show cavern. And to keep up with the demand for it, they decided to build Penn's Cave Hotel. In 1976, Penn's Cave and Penn's Cave House, which is the administrative building that they have there, were both added to the National Register of Historic Places.
I'm so surprised that a cave is on the list, but I guess that makes sense.
Me too. It's so strange to me. And we talked about in the Penn Brewery episode how like the lagering caves beneath the brewery are haunted. But it's interesting that this is our first haunted cave.
Yeah, because, even with the Penn Brewery caves, it's like they were attached to the brewery. This is like just a cave by itself.
Yeah, and in fact, it's funny that you say like this is just a cave because we're not talking about the house, we're not talking about the hotel, we're literally just talking about the cave today, which is super interesting. And Penn's Cave touts that it's America's only all-water cavern and farm nature wildlife park.
What does all-water cavern mean?
So the tour of the cavern is done by boat. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's one of the two tours that they offer. One is of just like their farm and stuff, and then it's the water tour of the cavern.
Yeah, that's really cool. The only caves I've been into, you walk through. I didn't even know that water caves were a thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You should look at pictures after this because it's amazing. And also, I think terrifying to be on that boat, probably, if you're like me and claustrophobic sometimes.
That's fair.
And that's pretty much it for history. It's a cave. It's been used for cave things. Yeah. Right. So where this gets really interesting to me is the paranormal story. And this location has been investigated by so many different paranormal groups. So there is a lot of findings to read about, but by far the most popular story is a love story.
Well, that's cute.
Is it?
Oh, maybe not.
So the story is one of the Seneca Native Americans that lived in the area. She fell for a French trapper, and her name was Nita-nee, like Nita-nee lion.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I didn't know that. And Nita-nee fell in love with the French trapper named Malachi Boyer, who had moved to Lancaster County and was there for a trading expedition. Now, that's cute and all, but it's forbidden for Seneca to marry outside of their tribe. So their love was forbidden. And they would allegedly sneak off to meet each other, with Boyer coming to the campsite whenever, her family would leave, etc. So they were sneaking around, and they decided that what they were going to do was just run away together and get married.
Okay.
That did not go very well. They were captured, and Nita-nee's family threw Malachi into the cave.
Oh.
But it's filled with water.
Right.
So he was there, and the legend says that he was there for a whole week, swimming back and forth, trying to find an exit that wasn't guarded by the Seneca.
That's terrifying. Thinking about yourself in those situations, like if you try to put yourself in the situation when you're hearing this story, right, is so scary, because it's like, I don't know, honestly, if I would try. Or if, I guess I would, because what else is there to do? But it's like, he went a week just kind of going crazy, probably swimming back and forth. That's awful to think about.
Yeah. Yeah, and apparently after a week, he was so exhausted and starved that he decided he was just going to go die. And he went to the back of the cave because he said he wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of watching him die. So he went to the back of the cave, climbed up on the bank, and then just essentially stayed there until he died.
Oh no, that's a really tough way to go.
Yeah. I know, you're like exhausted, you can't be with your love, and you're starving to death.
Right. And I wonder what she was going through up on the surface.
Right. That can't have been good.
No.
Just because he died wasn't enough for her family. So the brothers, at the discretion of their dad, ventured into the cave to find his body, tied his body with heavy rocks, and threw him into the deepest waters of the cave. So, just in a watery grave.
What is, you know what? I'm not even going to ask. I don't think there's an answer. And also, who knows?
What is the point?
Yeah, that was my question. Is like once he's in there, he's gone. You might as well just leave the body alone at that point.
Yep. Yeah, I wonder if it was like, we need to make sure he's dead or something. But after a week of not eating...
And no what? Oh.
I don't know if he was drinking cave water. I thought about that. He must have been, or else he would have died sooner.
That's what I was going to say, is like dehydration takes you in like, what, 2 or 3 days?
Yeah. So, allegedly he was drinking cave water. Not surprising that he said to haunt the cave. So, some say that you can actually hear him crying if you go towards the far back of the cave, away from the entrance. And people say that it echoes off the cave walls so that it's very loud.
Which is really sad. I wouldn't expect anything other than like a sorrowful haunting, but especially because you're in a cave and it's echoing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it would sound kind of all-consuming,
If that's accompanied with any haunted feelings, I don't know if that makes sense, like where you kind of like feel what the spirit did before they died, or if you're just empathetic as a human being and you just feel the sorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like either way, whether that feeling is part of the paranormal or not, it's just, you're right, like all-consuming is the only way to describe it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can imagine to hear that when you're there on a tour would really shake you.
Yes, definitely.
People also report that you can hear him cry out and say Nita-nee's name in a French accent.
Oh, that's so sad.
I know.
I honestly, this is not funny. I feel like but I was thinking like if someone from Penn State is there, they're probably like, yeah.
It's only funny because it's true. Like, imagine, wow. And for those that don't know, we went to Pitt, and Penn State have a rivalry, so. Oh,
but
man.
Yeah, no, in the context of this haunting, that's very sad.
It is sad, yeah. But there are other auditory hauntings in the cave. Visitors report hearing female voices, people speaking in languages that they don't understand, which is presumed to be the local native languages, heavy breathing, and hearing conversations that they can't discern. These seem to echo off the cave walls like the crying sound, so it kind of becomes all-encompassing with the echo. And people also report the sound of wood knocking, almost like two boats knocking together.
Well, that's an interesting one. That and the heavy breathing. I feel like the murmuring or people speaking in different languages, as you said, sort of makes sense for the environment. Heavy breathing, I'm wondering what the spirit is doing. Maybe climbing, because that does take a lot of effort.
Okay.
Maybe.
Or swimming.
Oh, swimming. Yeah, maybe swimming.
Yeah.
And the boats knocking together. So then were people is it big enough that boats can pass each other?
I think so, if you have smaller boats.
Okay.
When they do the tours, I think it's just one.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But I think the rest of the sounds do make sense. Like a female voice, okay. You know, tons of people probably used that cave for various things. So the auditory hauntings to me make sense.
Right.
Strangely, when people report seeing spirits here, they report that they see them suspended mid-air. Now, some people think this has to do with the pressure system in the cave. Others think that it's like a watchful eye, that the spirits are looking down on you. I think it's kind of strange. We don't see a lot of floating spirits. That seems more like a horror movie trope of like ghost that floats.
Yeah, I'm genuinely thinking, I'm not even horror. In my head, I was thinking of Harry Potter and the ghost like flying around the main
Moaning
room.
Myrtle.
Yes. So that's kind of interesting. I wonder if it is more of a scientific explanation, like if it is the pressure in this case, if all of them are doing it, because I feel like if one or two of them were floating, then maybe a watchful eye makes sense, but for all of them to be keeping a watchful eye, I don't know, or maybe it is kind of like an afterlife thing where they all band together to make sure that everyone's safe.
Which it could be. I mean, especially if it was used as kind of like an outpost for people. I wonder if there's that sense of community there, predating, obviously, the Nita-nee Malachi thing.
Right.
People also report seeing strange visions when they're in the cave, which is interesting to me overall. No one really says what the visions are, just that they see strange things. And I wonder how much of that is just the sensation of being in the cave itself.
Yeah, because I think there is some kind of brain thing where when you're in the dark, it tends to hallucinate. Not even hallucinate, but like...
Fill in the blank.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah. Kind of fill in the blank and show you images that may not actually be there. So I don't know how dark it is. I don't know if they have a light system. In the caves that I've been in, of course they do because we're walking, but if you're on a boat, then you likely only have one path, and so you could probably just have like a lantern on the boat and be fine.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because the next haunting is shadow figures, and I'm very skeptical of this one because I think in a cave where there's low light by nature and you're moving with a light source, you're gonna see shadows kind of morph and be manipulated a bit. So I'm not sure about that. During one investigation, a paranormal investigator said they saw a distinct shadow figure run between rocks, almost as if they were hiding. And I think this could be Malachi. Like, that could make sense.
Yes, if there are people in the cave, it would make sense that he's hiding, especially because it was a traumatic death, so we don't necessarily, I mean, we never really know for certain, but we don't know if this is an intelligent haunting. And so if Malachi does not know that he's dead, anyone in the cave he's probably thinking is coming down there to find him.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Like, maybe he's still feeling very defensive.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I thought maybe he was just sad and angry in his afterlife, but I didn't think about the fact that it doesn't have to be an intelligent haunting. Very interesting. So the final thing is that visitors report mist in the cave that they attribute to the paranormal. I'm even more skeptical of this one than the shadow figures because you're in a cave with water, which is moist by nature. So I think seeing mist is probably a pretty normal environmental occurrence. However, if the mist were to be accompanied by something like mist and voices, then I would liken it more to the paranormal, but I think it's hard to attribute it to the paranormal off the bat when there's so many possible environmental factors there.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the mists could be the reason that some of the spirits are floating, or all of the spirits are floating. You know, just if the mist is rising, then maybe they're kind of on top of it. You know, it might be dense enough to kind of raise
Yeah.
Their spirits.
We got jokes. History, hauntings, jokes.
Bad ones, but jokes.
But we got jokes. Yeah. So I think it's really interesting. Those are all of the alleged hauntings. I think it definitely would make sense that this is haunted, if by no one else, by Malachi, since he died there, unfinished business, traumatic death, etc.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it makes sense even for Nita-nee to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly. Not that we ever talked about her being there, but just, you know, even if she's like on outside of the cave, maybe up top or something.
That's true. Yeah. And they actually lean into the hauntings, which I think is really cool. And in the month of October, they do haunted boat tours.
Ooh.
Which sound really cool.
That is really cool.
So, knowing what you know, would you visit this paranormal place?
Yeah, definitely. So I love caves. Like, I love going through them. I wouldn't go spelunking, but like Crystal Cave was like one of my favorite places as a kid. And so I guess like, you know, like caverns, like there's like Laverne Caverns somewhere. And then there's another one that starts with an L that I know somewhere back in Eastern PA. But yeah, I love them. So I definitely want to go, especially because, again, a boat tour. Never been on one. I mean, ever, but like also never in a cave. But I think I do actually want to try to communicate with Malachi. I think that would be sort of nice to try to connect with him a little bit. I don't know that his spirit would be open to it. I don't think he would really, but it would be maybe try to like get some comfort across to him in some small way. I think that would be my goal.
Yeah, I think whenever you have a distinct ghost like this that you can easily draw on a lot of history to communicate with, I'm game for an investigation. However, with this one, I think I would struggle a bit with it being spooky. Just in general, caves can be unsettling to me, and I definitely wouldn't spend the night.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely not. That I could not do. I think I would be able to spend a certain amount of time in there, you know, because I can psych myself up before we go in, but that psych only lasts, you know, there's a limited amount of time before I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Right. Just enough to communicate with Malachi and get out.
Yes. Also, I really like the name, Malachi.
Yeah. It is a pretty name.
I know. Him and Nita-nee both have very interesting, cool names.
They do. And it's an interesting story. It's very sad, but, you know, such is the way of life. We have so many like scorned love stories on the podcast.
I know. I was going to say forbidden love again. We've seen that so many times now.
Yeah. If you have been to Penn's cave, we'd like to hear your experience, of course. Or if you've ever been to any haunted cave, we'd love to hear it. So you can always reach out to us on social media. If you have a recommendation for a haunted location for us to cover, you can find us on socials at Paranormal in Pennsylvania. And tune in next Thursday to see what history and hauntings we discuss next. Stay spooky, my friends.